Hi everyone, today we're taking a look at the Anycubic Kobra 3 combo with the ACE unit. It's a fast connected 3D printer with automatic calibration, multicolor printing, and filament drying, all at a relatively accessible price. So let's start from the beginning. The printer arrived well protected in a single box. There is some assembly required, and while the manual includes photos and diagrams, I wouldn't say the process is completely effortless. Some of the screws are quite small, and a few mounting points are slightly hidden, so it takes a little more time than I expected. Nothing particularly difficult, though. Once everything is assembled, you can move on and probably never think about those screws again. Both the printer and the ACE filament unit have their own power cables. The ACE unit connects to the printer, and the filament is guided through Bowden tubes. Overall, the setup is straightforward. The only slightly awkward part is the small plastic clips at the back of the ACE unit, which can be a little annoying to handle. Once everything is connected, the printer is ready to start. It has built-in Wi-Fi, so you can send models remotely and install updates without using an SD card every time. You can also scan a QR code to connect the printer to your Anycubic account and control it through the mobile app. It all works quite well, and the overall experience feels fairly modern. When you start the printer, it automatically calibrates the axes and compensates for vibrations. If you're familiar with newer Bamboo Lab printers, some of this will feel familiar. And that's also true for the software, the slicer interface, the integrated marketplace, and some of the general workflow clearly take inspiration from what Bamboo Lab and other competitors are doing. So if you come from a Bamboo Lab, this printer will feel kind of like a cheaper copy of the real thing. That's not necessarily a problem per se. What matters more is whether it works well in practice. And when it comes to print quality, the first results were very good. Here, for example, you can see the level of detail on this print. The surfaces are clean, the smaller details came out nicely, and I didn't run into any noticeable printing issues. I also tried this more complicated model, which has several small elements that can be difficult to reproduce properly. Again, the printer handled it well. The text isn't perfectly readable, so there is still some room for improvement there, but overall, the result is very solid. One of the stronger points of this machine is also its speed. Anycubic advertises printing speeds of up to 600 millimeters per second. Of course, that doesn't mean you'll print everything at 600 millimeters per second all the time, but the printer does feel fast in normal use. And if you're coming from an older machine, the difference is quite noticeable. The ACE unit can hold multiple filament spools at the same time. The obvious use is multicolor printing, but I actually find the convenience of having several materials loaded just as useful. For example, you could keep a cheaper filament loaded for prototypes and another filament for finished parts. Instead of changing the spool manually, you can simply choose the filament you want inside the slicer. It's a small convenience, but once you start using it, it's quite nice to have. The system also supports printing with up to 4 colors. The setup inside the slicer is relatively simple. You can use the brush tool to assign different colors directly to different areas of the model. So even if you're not particularly experienced with 3D modeling, it's still fairly easy to customize a print. I did run into one problem during my testing. At first, multicolor prints would regularly stop because the printer reported a knot in the filament spool. There wasn't actually a knot, so I started checking a few possible causes. I first printed some covers for the cardboard spools, thinking there might be too much friction. That didn't solve it. I also checked the connections inside the ACE unit, but everything seemed fine. Eventually, I realized that the ACE unit was simply positioned too close to the edge of the surface it was sitting on. There's a mechanism at the back that moves during filament changes, and it needs a little bit of space. Once I moved the unit slightly forward, the problem disappeared. So it wasn't really a fault with the printer, it was more of a positioning issue, although it would have been useful to make that requirement a little clearer in the instructions. Once that was sorted, multicolor printing worked well. There is one downside though. Every time the printer changes filament, it needs to purge some of the previous color before continuing. As a result, multicolor prints can produce a fair amount of waste. The more color changes you have, the more noticeable it becomes. That's not specific to this printer, it's simply one of the compromises of this type of system. One feature of the ACE unit that I think is genuinely useful is filament drying. Some filament types absorb moisture from the air over time, which can affect print quality. Having the ability to dry the filament directly inside the storage unit makes the whole process more convenient. Overall, the Anycubic Kobra with the ACE unit has performed well during my testing. You get a build volume of approximately 250 by 250 by 260 millimeters, printing speeds of up to 600 millimeters per second, automatic calibration, Wi-Fi connectivity, multicolor printing, and filament drying. There are a few compromises. Assembly could be more intuitive, cable management could be cleaner, the ACE system isn't particularly fast when changing filament, and multicolor printing naturally creates some waste. But none of those issues have been major problems for me. Most importantly, print quality has been consistently good, the machine is fast, and after resolving that small positioning issue with the ACE unit, it has been reliable as well. I wouldn't say it's automatically the best option for everyone, especially with how competitive the 3D printer market has become. But if you're looking for a relatively affordable printer with multicolor capability and a good range of modern features, I think it deserves consideration. Thanks for watching. If you found the video useful, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.